control the vertigo.
Welcome to Anthologic, the TV anthology podcast. I am your host, Mark. Anthologic is a podcast dedicated to exploring the good, the bad, and the odd of horror, science fiction, and the best of mystery suspense anthology shows and series on TV. Join me as we slip through the cracks of reality to approach the extremes of experience, where we can peruse the stories and art of a sinister fairground of strange and wonderful rides. And now we go on to the show that is the focus of this particular episode. Welcome to this episode of Anthologic with your host Mark. Today, bringing you a show that was picked randomly. I picked this randomly using my tried and tested technique of a random number generator and a list. And I came up with a show called The Haunting Hour, the series. Okay, also called R.L. Stine's The Haunting Hour. This is a Canadian-American anthology horror fantasy series based on a few things. The works of R.L. Stine's both his books, The Haunting Hour and Nightmare Hour, and a film, a 2007 film which I've never heard of called R.L. Stine's The Haunting Hour. Don't think about it. This ran for 4 seasons from 2010 to 2014, premiering on the Hub Network on October 29th, 2010. 76 episodes in all. I don't know about all of the seasons, but the first season they were about 22 minutes an episode. And there was a fair few two-parters as well. In fact, the one I'll be talking about tonight is a two-parter of that ilk. It was intended to be kind of riffing on previous shows, particularly Goosebumps, which I don't think I've covered. I don't think I've covered yet. And also, Are You Afraid of the Dark? And you know what? When I watched this one, I went in completely cold, didn't know anything about the series, and I was very surprised to read it was made in 2010 because it felt like a late 80s production. So it feels like that was their intention, and if it was, they succeeded completely because honestly, it felt exactly like a late 80s, early 90s show to me. I was very surprised, actually, when I saw it. Now, the one I watched tonight for this show is called Really You. These are all on YouTube, or this pair of episodes are on YouTube. It's a two-parter, I should say. So, Really You. Interesting show, as I say. It was definitely evoking a late 80s vibe, and it was up for various awards. So that's kind of interesting. It was fairly successful in its time. It's one that was not on my radar at all before I started Anthologic, so I was completely unaware of it and just came across it while looking for other shows. And if you look in some shows, they'll say this then inspired this series. So almost certainly, I probably came across this after finding out about the Goosebumps anthology show, and there was probably a note in the Wikipedia about this follow-up series. That's how I think I came to it. So yeah, okay. So the episode we're talking about tonight is called the Really You, Part 1 and Part 2, both on Wikipedia. Both on YouTube, and rated quite well on IMDb. It's got a score of 7.8 with 200 odd scores, so pretty high. Now, I said it evoked late 80s. The vibe and the acting and the writing felt very late 80s, actually. So it had that kind of sort of slightly misty lensed look. And that ominous music look. It kind of reminds you of very early X-Files kind of vibe. That's what we're talking about here. And involves basically a very spoiled little girl, a family, mother, father, older brother, spoiled young daughter, and she is very spoiled. She's got daddy right around her finger. He's sending out money. The mother's kind of exasperated her. So basically, she wants this doll by the Really You company that is life size and very expensive, and you can buy all these sort of accessories. You can even go and have a sort of to a beauty salon with the doll, and you and the doll get the makeup job. So it's kind of very extreme. And it starts off with felt like it was going to be a spoilt daughter allegory kind of thing, and she get obsessed with the doll. But no, it actually steers away from that. So I give it some props for originality, I think. It starts off, she gets the doll, she starts doing stuff with it, but then the doll... a friend comes over and said, the doll whispered to me and said he doesn't like you, and she gets really angry and properly bratty and breaks her friend's doll, and the doll leaves. And basically her friends are going off of her because she's so horrible, and the mother's a little concerned. The mother confiscates the doll for behaviour, but then the mother gets obsessed with the doll, and the daughter starts claiming, well, I saw it move, and like no one believes the girl, and she goes to therapy, and it's quite kind of traumatic. Eventually we find out the doll moves. It's kind of creepy. At one point the mother's kind of really upset about the daughter's behaviour and hugs the doll, but then we see the doll's hand move up and touch the mother's arm without the mother being aware of it, but we know the doll is somewhat animated and we see it move. And then there's a point where the mother brings the doll to the breakfast table and dishes out breakfast, and she's got a work computer next to it, and only the daughter and the doll are sitting at the table while the husband and wife are talking, and suddenly there's a crash and they turn around and there's like I think it's like a smoothie poured all over the computer, and the daughter saying, she did it, the doll did it, and they don't believe her, obviously. So and it goes on. The brother is like, oh god, we're such a dysfunctional family. It's quite well written in some respects, and the acting's okay. I would say it's okay. It's passable, but the brother's sort of is a bit suspicious, and he gets worried about his own sister. He thinks his sister used to be cute, and she's taken this horrible turn for the worse, but he still remembers her as he was, and he wants to help her. And he says, "Look, I'll prove to you the doll isn't moving. That might help you." He honestly thinks, I think she's got problems, but then they kind of prove that the doll isn't what they seem. At one point he gets the doll and takes its wig off, and it's got a note saying "Destroy this doll" on. And then him and his friend go and investigate where the doll was built, and this mad old lady's there and she's saying she built the dolls, but then this big company, you're from the company, aren't you? She's all this paranoid. They took it and they tell her about the destroy this doll thing. Oh, that one should have been destroyed, and they leave. And what eventually happens is the little girl realises she's got a stiff neck, she's feeling ill, she's having trouble sleeping, but then she suddenly, at one point, she looks down, and when she sees the doll move, and her foot is turned plastic, and she's eventually, basically, she's turning into the doll, and the doll's turning into her, and they swap. However, we do get a scene earlier on where they talk about her birthmark on the back of her neck, and then one day, Lily, this little girl, comes down and is all like really friendly, but a bit off, and the brother's a bit suspicious, and even the mother says, "You don't smell the same. You smell a bit different." And the daughter just goes off to school, and then they see the doll in a bin. The brother looks at the doll and sees it has her birthmark, and calls his mother over. And then notices the smell. The mother comes over and smells the doll, and it smells like her daughter. So they kind of know it's her, and she hugs the doll saying, "Oh, Lily, I want you back." And that somehow magically reverts the process. So the doll that was the little girl turns back into the little girl, and the little girl that was the doll starts to turn back into the doll while they're chasing it. And it kind of slowly stumbles and falls on the ground in the road, and is a full doll, and the brother and his friend are looking at it, and suddenly the doll sits up, but a big rubbish truck runs it over and smashes it to pieces. And so the story's kind of over, other than the doll gets found by these little girls at the end, and sort of saying, "I want it." So, you kind of get a suspicion it's not all over. Not a bad story, and quite well made. Very evocative of the late 80s, very. And it's got some interesting stuff, like the warning at the beginning sort of says this isn't suitable for young children. We suggest you watch this as a family. It's kind of a well-informed suggestion. I think that seems reasonable. I would not young children would be freaked out by this, but no one else really. It's fine as a story. Not bad at all. So Haunting Hour, as I say, 2010 to 2010, not bad at all. So there we go. That's this episode done. But before I go, may I ask, is anybody out there?
I'm not.
We now return control of your television set to you until next week at this same time, when the control voice will take you to